Hey there.
Josh, how are you?
Doing well, Skip. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Awesome. Did you see that NDA come through?
I did. I signed it.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I saw an email come through. I wasn't sure if that was signed yet, and I've just been pretty busy. But good. All right. So I would love to just kind of start with understanding what it is you're working on and kind of where you think subscriptions could potentially fall into that so that I can help frame the conversations from there.
All right. Hold on one second. Okay. Now I just wanted to record this because my partner wasn't able to make the call.
Oh, definitely. And I'm recording on my side as well. So if you just want me to send that to you, I can do that.
That'd be great. Okay. So Tavia. Tavia has, well, that's the third name that we've had. We're actually pre-launch, but now have everything in place, including a social media campaign. We've been approached by the United Nations, et cetera, et cetera. So really our mission in life is to keep girls in school in developing countries. I don't know how much you know about the issues around the world, but there are 130 million girls worldwide that are not in school. And the primary reason that they're not in school has to do with the fact that they have no access to feminine hygiene products, period products. So what we are doing is a subscription model that is based very much the same as the Dollar Shave Club, but for feminine products. So for every kit that we sell, we then give a kit or a solution to a girl in need in a developing country. And I mean, that's really it in a nutshell as far as the business model is concerned. I can tell you that our website is about 3/4 of the way done. We plan to launch in about 6 to 8 weeks. We have a distribution center in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's already set up. And we have distributorships with Procter & Gamble, Edgewell, Kimberly-Clark, all of the major players in that arena.
Okay, great. And so when you talk about your kits, is that going to be a different assortment every month or whatever the frequency is, or is that something where it's going to be unique each time you send it out?
So it will be the same. So when a woman comes on the website, she'll tell us basically her cycle timing, and then she will go through the process of deciding whether she wants it delivered monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, semi-annually.
Okay.
And then we will also have products that we will offer where a woman can add, whether it be MyDoll or a heating pad or stain remover, or there's a lot of different ancillary items that someone could that they could add to the kit or to the box.
Gotcha. And then in terms of, within the box itself from a customization perspective, so knowing that there's pads versus tampons, knowing that there's different levels of tampons, are you giving customization there as well?
Yes. So basically there will be 3 kit sizes based on a woman's need, right? So whether they have a light, medium, or heavy cycle. So some women have a 3-day cycle, some have a 5 or 6-day cycle. What they'll be able to do is say, okay, well, I want the 25-piece kit, and they can take those 25 pieces and assort them any way they want with any brand that they want.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's
pads, tampons, panty liners, but it's a total of 25 for one set price.
Gotcha. And is that going to be like a box of Tampax pearls, or is that going to be like an actual, I want 10 Tampax pearls?
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, the latter.
Yes.
So you guys are taking the what would normally be bought in a box of all the same and giving people the ability to say, I want to buy some of this, some of that, and kind
I
of
want
mix and match.
exactly what I need every month.
Okay, gotcha. And how are you guys fulfilling against those monthly subscriptions right now?
We're not. We're pre-launch.
Sorry, how are you planning to fulfill against it in the 6 to 8 weeks when you launch?
Oh, you mean, oh, okay. So we have a distribution center in Raleigh that's already set up and automated. So we'll actually have the product in the distribution center, and it's a basic pick and pack fulfillment line.
Okay. And are they able to handle the subscription aspects, so order 2 and beyond?
Yes.
Okay. And so
we've set it up like an assembly line, and it's what they call pick to light, meaning when an order comes through, it literally shines a light on a bin that says 4 or 3 or 5, and they know to pick that many from that bin and put it in the kit or the box.
Gotcha. And then you're anticipating women changing that on a monthly basis?
No, I'm not anticipating. What I'm anticipating the changes to be are add-on items.
Okay.
In other words, the kit, the basic assortment that a woman chooses, in all of the studies that we've done, would remain the same, unless there was a life change like a pregnancy or, an IUD that a woman has decided to start using, or things of that nature where they want it maybe less frequently, but they would typically want the same items in their kit.
Okay, gotcha. So it sounds like you need flexibility to be able to add items, and we have what we call our basically an upsell product associated with it, so that
right. Oh. So, and there's another aspect to what we're doing that I haven't even mentioned yet, and that is, and this again would be an add-on item, but we're working on a line of fashion undergarments for women, because another one of the items that these young girls in a lot of cases don't have is underwear. So if you offer them, let's say, a reusable pad solution, because that's what's socially acceptable in East Africa, in Uganda, it won't do them any good if they have no underwear.
Okay, yeah.
To hold the pad in place. So we've actually already made a trip to Uganda, and we did a giveaway and filmed a documentary when we were there. And it was amazing the amount of things that we learned that these girls don't have, and truthfully how privileged we are here in the US. Yeah.
Okay, so if I had to really sum it up, it sounds like it's more of a Tom's model, the buy one, give one, but you're looking at it from a subscription perspective.
That's right.
In terms of, I want somebody to get this on a monthly basis or some type of cadence, and during that cadence, you're looking for opportunities to push some additional products on there in terms of upsells. Right. My guess is that's where the money will be made, since you're kind of.
So ultimately, and you're exactly right. It's the Dollar Shave Club and Tom's model combined, truthfully.
Got it. Okay. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. So what I want to do now is shift over. Let me pull a screen up for you.
You don't mind if I eat while you're talking, do you?
No, please go for it.
Thank you. I'm dying here.
I had mine shortly before we started our call, and I work out of my house, similar to you. I love the fish tank, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I can't see you, but
yeah, I didn't expect. Nobody ever actually turns the video on, so I'm in a t-shirt. In full disclosure, so I could turn it on if you don't mind, but.
Yeah, I don't, trust me. I'm typically in a t-shirt and shorts myself. I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops, so.
I always feel like the talking heads on ESPN and everything. They're always wearing shorts with coats. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to close the blinds behind me so that it's not overexposed.
Yeah, I love my saltwater tank.
All right. I'll just go back to.
You're in New York, right?
No, so I'm actually based down in Austin, Texas.
Of course you are.
I was brought in. Are you familiar with a company called Bazaar Voice?
Which one?
Bazaar Voice?
No.
Okay, so Bazaar Voice is based in Austin. I worked for them for years, but they live in the retail space as well.
Okay.
And so just that made good sense to be able to stay where I was. Why is my video not?
But Order Group is in New York.
Order Group is based in New York. That is accurate.
Oh, okay. I only asked that because I'm there a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My brother-in-law lives in Brooklyn, and on the fashion side of things, like I told you with the fashion undergarments that we're producing.
Yep.
We're collaborating with Parsons School of Design in New York City.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I go up there fairly often, and then our branding company is also in New York, and they're the same organization that launched the UN for Women and the He for She campaign.
Very cool. So yeah, we're based down in the financial district up there. So next time you're in, if we're continuing our conversations, let's definitely, there we go, try to get some time together.
That'd be great.
I'm up there fairly regularly. All right. Technology is working now.
Technology is only good when it works.
It's unbelievable. Okay. So goal from here forward is really, we're going to jump down to that third bullet. I want to share some kind of insight that we're seeing in the space in terms of customer acquisition, customer retention, and where buying really fits into that. And I think that's ultimately how subscriptions is going to fit to what we're talking about today. And then, I want you to feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. It's 100% a conversation dialogue. I don't want to monologue towards you for too much.
Sure.
So as Order Groove really looks at what are we trying to achieve, our focus is on this idea of, as you look at the space, and the space being retail, assortment and price is not what wins any longer. There's unlimited number of options, and there's unlimited number of brands coming in because everybody's looking at how do I make more margins, and then ultimately how do I get more people to come to my site. And so you see expansions of catalogs, you see an endless aisle online, you see all these changes taking place. And you couple that with millennials and really consumers in a whole understand the value of their time so much more now. And so they're looking for ways to speed up the process and get the things that they need. So as you think about feminine hygiene, that's an area of, it's not exactly fun for people to buy those products necessarily. So
it amazed me that in this day and age that there were so many women that still don't like to go up to the register when they purchase it. I mean, they literally will seek out a register that only has a woman. And if there is only a man at the register, they'll hide it under something else on the counter.
Yep. And case study of one, I can admit that it took till my first son was born to feel comfortable going to that register to buy all those products that we needed during that. My wife had a C-section, so that first 6 weeks was that was eye-opening.
Yes. And I've been studying this subject now for the last 2 years. We've been working on this project for 2 years now, and we're very close. But I probably know more about the subject than my own wife now.
There you go. So as we look at this idea of, okay, you can buy these products anywhere, they're really starting to become commoditized, and then understanding the value of your time, it starts to become a question of why are we really forcing people to buy in the way that we forced them to buy years ago? So be that online, going through multiple steps of a checkout process, or be that having to go through the process of going to store and doing all these different actions. And we believe that the next big shift is going to be in e-commerce, this idea of, or excuse me, in commerce, the idea of flexibility around buying and being more flexible and catering to the way people want to buy products is going to allow you to buy or capture more of those buying moments with your consumers.
Yes.
So as we look at that,
to your point, the purchase experience and the after purchase experience to me are the two most important things. That and of course buying for a cause. So I agree 100%, especially when it comes to the millennials, and we've done a tremendous amount of focus groups with millennials. So no, I'm in full agreement.
Great. And so if you think about that, why does traditional retail continue to make it hard? It needs to be easy, and the consumer expectation is changing such that it has to be easy. This started with mobile probably about 6 years ago, where all of a sudden we had to start building mobile first, optimized towards mobile. And now that's already driving 60 billion in sales just on your mobile device and influence another 1.3 trillion. From there, we went to personalization. So, I want you to know something about me and help me curate an experience that I may not have gotten without that help. And so as we just look at these shifts that have been taking place, nobody is focusing on how do you make the buying experience better? And the buying experience being that cart or the actual checkout process of getting products again and again.
Right.
And so if you look at it from a physical perspective, it's every click is an additional 10% of conversion that you're going to lose. Every 100 milliseconds of latency is another 1% reduction in sales. We just continue to make it hard. We have not changed the way that works. And you layer on top of that, we as humans, or we as millennials or shoppers, consumers, wherever you want to put yourself, we are starting to look at the way that we use things in the way that Facebook and Google force it upon us. And it starts to become, that experience is habitual, whether I'm on my desktop or I'm on my mobile device. And as retailers, we have to get smarter about, okay, think about how a consumer is going to engage in that instance and take advantage of it so that they can buy the products, and they can buy the products in the easiest way possible. And then on top of that, you just have mental friction. So we all have lives, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's the 5,000 marketing messages per day, depending on what stat you looked at most recently. There's a lot happening out there. So we have to get smarter about how do we capture those consumers. That's hard. And then how do we maintain those consumers? There's a great Adobe study that came out last year that says it's 5 times as expensive to convert a new customer as to resell a current customer. And so you can say that's subscriptions, you can say that's better technology for reordering. We think it's really a combination of the both, and that's what we're focused on growing at. So traditional 9 steps, this is if you're going into the store to buy feminine hygiene products. But in reality, it can really be 2 steps. I think Amazon is showing this. You see Walmart is getting very aggressive with it after their acquisition of Jet.com. Google's starting to play in the space as well. If you look at that announcement that came out today between Walmart and Google, there's just a lot happening. Mackenzie's loyalty loop, I'm going to guess you're probably familiar with this based on your experience. What we are seeing and what we're experiencing, though, is this consideration and valuation aspects of the loop are going outward. As you think about all those additional brands and places to buy brands are coming in, it's getting harder and harder to build a loyalty and maintain those customers. We believe that people who are going to be the most successful are those who focus on this idea of how do I take all of the friction out of that process, get them to buy my product, and then keep them in that loop, whether it's through a subscription or whether through this idea of just make it easy for them, make it a way for somebody to come in, do what they need to do, and then spend time elsewhere. Mentioned Amazon already, but they're obviously doing this very well. And this is one of the reasons I believe that Amazon continues to be as successful in the space as they are. If you look at the investments Amazon is making, it is not in the cart. They are not trying to figure out how do I optimize my cart to get another 1% or 10% conversion in that instance. They're focusing on how do I skip the cart? How do I get people to go from a product page to a checkout and be done? How do I get all the way down that process to confirmation and no longer have to go through the checkout process?
Right.
And so this comes in many forms for them, whether it's subscribe and save. And if you look at the feminine hygiene and the beauty products, they're actually auto-opting people into subscribe and save now. That is how strongly they believe in it. If you look at the Amazon Echo, so we're not using a mobile device or a computer. We are literally talking to a piece of machinery saying, order me this again. And it actually crossed the chasm, I guess, about 3 months ago now, where they've reached such a large quantity of orders taking place that it's actually meaningful. And, we see people like P&G trying to figure out, okay, how do I take advantage of this? Because enough people are using it. Prime, obviously, people are willing to pay money for convenience. That is one of the most examples. And then the dash button. I think this is the most interesting one. I don't know that it's going to catch on, but the fact that people are opting in to take a new piece of machinery to put into their house to be able to say, hey, I'm going to have to buy more detergent. I just want to push a button. You look at what Sears just announced in terms of they're putting dash buttons built into their appliances moving forward. People are always looking for ways to make it easy to get the products that they're going to have to use in the consumables world.
Yep.
So that transitions into what is Order Group. So we've been around about 7 years now, and our focus has been on subscriptions historically. We've been very successful and very fortunate to be able to build these relationships with more than 100 brands or retailers. You'll see some major names in there, from the Walmarts to the PetSmarts of the world on the retail side, P&G's, L'Oreal's, Kimberly-Clark we do some work with as well. So ultimately, there's a lot happening here in the way that people are interested in subscriptions and taking advantage of that opportunity. We realized early in the year, though, really late last year, that it was time for us to start to look outside of subscription. And what else was there that we could start to do to help to bring people in? And we built this vision of there are a lot of ways to buy products and to interact or engage with the retailers at the point of purchase. How do we get smarter about how we take advantage of that and build out a platform that allows retailers to capture these buying moments, whether it's on a mobile device or on a .com? And because of that, we were able to get the Series C funding. So this is historically what we have been known as, is a frictionless subscription service in an e-commerce channel. So somebody comes to the site, they say, hey, I want to buy my box. I want to get my box on a monthly basis. While that sounds simple in itself, there's actually a lot of complications that go into that. How do you start to communicate with these people appropriately to let them know that they've signed up for a subscription? Your next order has been placed. You can expect shipping on this date. How do you really pay off that user experience that people are going to be aware of? From there, you start to shift into this idea of, okay, you got the user experience right in terms of touch points, but what about the flexibility of, hey, to your point, I have a life-changing event. I've become pregnant. I actually don't need my box. Okay, make it easy for them to cancel. Better yet, make it easy for them to say, okay, my due date's here. I'm going to need a box there, and allow them to delay that so that it comes when the time is right for them, and give them the opportunity to change all of the products and the SKUs within that box if they need to, because a lot of things have changed. You go back to that, tampon versus pad. I know post my children, my wife couldn't use tampons for a while. So there are just things that you have to be able to provide that user experience for. And our platform is built around that. It is focused on the idea of how do you capture consumers and give them all the needs and flexibilities that they need within the platform to be able to maintain that relationship.
Well, we want to be able to give them the option to, let's say that life-changing event comes along, we want them to be able to maybe gift their subscription to a homeless shelter, a women's homeless shelter, or maybe to, a young girl that's just come of age, or whatever it may be. We want them to be able to do that as well.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So what we realized, though, was with this platform, it was really important. We learned about the customer experience, the engagement with an order management system, with a e-commerce systems, and all of those touch points that we had to make whole and really make this system work. Mm-hmm. But that only focuses on such a small percentage of the site. And in most instances, we're seeing that's in the 15 to 20% of the range. Now, when you look at the Dollar Shave Clubs and that type of business model, it becomes a little bit larger, much larger actually, the entire. But there's things that we say, I'm going to buy a product, potentially, think about Birchbox. You get the example products or the samples, then you have to come back to the site to buy the full-fledged products. So that's the idea of reordering. It's, hey, I'm not going to subscribe to this right now, but I may come back and I buy it. And we know that hits about 80% of the audience. Then there's another broader set outside of that that says frictionless ordering, in the sense of, I've bought from you before, I want to buy an entirely new product from you now. Why are you going to force me to go through that process of typing in my credit card information, typing in my login information? Again, going back to the example of Amazon, they have one click that expires in September. So we believe there's a real opportunity for retailers to start to take advantage of all these additional areas of opportunity or buying moments that consumers are already engaging in, and we are just not capturing. And so our new platform, or our more robust platform, is the idea of, okay, subscriptions are really important, but with that technology, how else can we service the customers that come to your site? So whether that's frictionless reordering, the idea of, I bought a product one time, I wanted to try it, now I'm ready to come back and buy it again, or I don't know the frequency I need those products on. MyTavia would be a great example of that. So sometimes my wife needs that, other times she doesn't. So we don't know how much to buy at a given time. It is simply, we buy what's available, and then as she runs out, we buy more. The frictionless ordering, again, coming back to the site, buying something new altogether. So if somebody has signed up for the box, perhaps they bought the MyTavia on one occasion, they come back to the site and they're like, you know what, MyTavia didn't really work for me, I want to look at an alternative. You can allow them to buy that alternative without having to go through the entire checkout process again. And then from a channel perspective, we believe that a lot of commerce is going to happen outside of the traditional e-commerce in retail stores that it has happened in the past. We believe SMS text messaging is going to be a massive one. So you think about the fact that I think 3 million people or 30 million people have downloaded the Amazon app to date. 3 billion people have smartphones, though. That is a much broader area and opportunity that we want to take advantage of. And let people know what's happening in their subscriptions in SMS. Don't force another email into their inbox. Let them see that in that text message where, again, it's habitual. They use that all the time. Let's take advantage of that opportunity. And then you start to move down further. We're not there yet, but things we're working on is the Facebook, the voice, and the Internet of Things. So as we look at devices like printers and coffee makers, things that are starting to connect to the internet seamlessly, how do we use that to understand consumption and then start to make recommendations of products to buy or frequencies of the products to buy to the individual? And so as you move down, that's what that trust data engine is. We're aggregating the data of how are people buying products across our platform, both at the individual level as well as the brand and aggregate level, to be able to start to get smarter about when do we reach out to somebody to buy a product again in the sense of a reorder, or how do we make recommendations of this is the frequency you should sign up for a subscription. And so that's where the big data, air quotes, is coming into play for us.
Right.
Any questions on any of that?
No. Nope.
Great.
I've spent, just so you understand, I've been in retail my entire life, in big box retail though, all brick and mortar.
Yep. I saw, I think you're at Lowe's, right?
I was, yeah.
Yep, yeah. So it's really, we are trying to figure out, and we believe we've solved, now we're just taking that to market, this idea of Amazon's coming into the space and Amazon is changing the way everything happens. How do you get in front of what Amazon is doing by providing the same experience and then letting the customer ultimately choose who do they want to do business with? And we think that the way that people buy products is going to be that way, because that's what Amazon really focuses on, is how do you make it easy to buy a product? Don't get in the way, just let people get what they want. And so when we start to think about how do we help people do that, we believe the way that people buy is really important, and then the speed of which people get things. We can't help with the way that people get things or the speed of which people can get things, but going back to your experience in brick and mortar, as you start to get into the buy online, pick up in store, and start to really leverage those assets that the major brick and mortars already have, that's how they win. And so we're trying to give them the assets that they need digitally to take advantage of the physical. Plus, everything we're talking about can happen in physical as well. So what we're looking at here is we really focus on three things. Starting at the left, we have to establish those relationships. And we know that that is a matter of looking at merchandising. So how do you present the information? Excuse me. The incentives that you offer. So is there some type of discount if you buy 5 boxes? Is the 6th box free? Is there, if you go for a 30-pack box versus a 25-pack, do you give something additional to them? Like, there are ways to really kind of, I hate to use the word, but game the system to start to get people to buy the bigger products and to buy more products. And you guys have the advantage of, this is something people have to deal with. On top of that, you have a charitable aspect associated with it as well. And so when I think about that, I do think there's a lot of ways to really take, again, not the best terminology, but take advantage of that opportunity to do as much as you can for both the people who are receiving the products locally as well as abroad.
And understand that, and I hear what you're saying, I don't mind taking advantage of what you're talking about, the story, right? Because I understand that the story is really what differentiates us from everyone else. But whatever it takes to be able to keep those girls in school so we can stop incidents of AIDS and child pregnancies and selling their bodies, and through education those things all happen. So I don't mind using that. Great.
So once you're able to establish those relationships, then it goes to the hard part of retention. We see a nearly an 80% month-over-month retention rate in our subscription platform. And we're able to do that through various ways. I think from your perspective, some of the most important are going to be looking at the flexibility of the subscription itself. So understanding, when am I going to receive it? How often do I receive it? What do those payment methods look like? We can cater to all of those needs. We also have the ability to look at the credit card really closely. And so we use tokenization to go in and say, okay, we know this credit card is about to expire. How do we go back and make sure that it doesn't expire before that next order goes through? So we have processes built in where we send the appropriate emails or this appropriate text messages going to the consumer and letting them know the information and bring them back to the site to update that information. Because that's really important, because we don't want orders to get pushed into the system but not get fulfilled because of a credit card issue. And then the incentive flexibility continues to be important here. So understanding that idea of, okay, you guys won't have this data quite yet, but looking at, where's the drop off? Are people getting 10 boxes and then falling off? Are people getting 20 boxes and then falling off? How do we get them to 25? How do we get them to 30? And really starting to look at the system and understand, what are those fall off points? What are the incentives or the offers that we can put out there to get people into it and really take advantage of it? Another thing that I think could be really interesting, and I don't know where you guys stand on this, is partnerships with the brands in terms of P&G, Kimberly-Clark, and trying to get them involved to give GWPs out and things like that to get people over that hump that we talked about, as well as think about how can you do more for what you're doing overseas by lowering your cost.
No, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's really one of my skills, I guess, is to bring people like that into the fold to help us, further the cause. I did not want to bring them into the fold until after we launched.
Yep, you got to prove it works.
Yes.
Great. Not pictured here, not something we can necessarily want to go into detail today, but we've actually started to build out the capability for brands to participate at the retail channel. And what that means is brands who are spending massive amounts of dollars in co-op for advertising at Walmart to bring people into the site, they don't necessarily know the value they're getting from that. And what we're hearing from these brands is, if there's an opportunity to say, hey, I would much rather fund the discount associated with a subscription at the retailers versus spending my money to drive people that I don't know what's happening, there's a pretty healthy appetite for that so far. So we see an opportunity down the line where we can act as the middleman of this world to be able to help brands understand where their product's being purchased based on subscription, and then route the funds appropriately to start to provide the incentives to people, the customers, to buy, and take that burden off retailers from a margins perspective.
Yep.
And then the final piece on there is the expansion. So this is what we were talking about earlier. We have the ability when people are about to receive a box or when people come to the site to understand what are those upsells that make sense for them based on other products they've bought or based on what you guys say, hey, if somebody is buying X, Y, and Z, they should be getting this letter A as well. And we can start to put those in front of people and present them as part of it. This is twofold great. Drives out of our average order value up, so margins go up. And then from a shipping perspective, it's very good piece because your shipping cost is, from what we've seen, negligent in terms of the uptick based on that additional product. So you get better margins per box.
Yes, I agree 100%. So what you're saying is you actually do marketing emails? Upsell emails?
That's right. So we can do it one of three ways really. We can send the email on your behalf. It'd be a white labeled solution. We can integrate into your email service provider if you guys have one that you're going to be leveraging so that they all come from you directly. It's just we set up the codes and the appropriate terminologies. And then thirdly, on-site. So when somebody goes to their what we call My Subscription interface, which is essentially a hosted page we would need on the site that allows people to come in and manage their credit card information, manage their subscriptions, look at the SKUs, pricing, things like that. We can actually present the upsell opportunities in that instance.
Okay.
And so ultimately, those are the three ways we can really help drive that additional selling opportunities.
Okay. I don't mean to cut you short. I've actually got someplace I have to go right now.
Okay.
What else did we need to cover that I can't do without, information I can't do without?
So the remaining 5 slides were really examples of what we have in market. I think they're definitely valuable. It's not something we necessarily have to go through today, just knowing kind of what your time restraints are. I guess I would love to better understand from your perspective, does this sound like the technology you're looking for? Or, if it's missing, what is kind of missing in that ideal world for you?
Oh, look, if you think that your service can provide the flexibility of creating that customized kit for our customer, that's really what I'm looking for. I've also looked at post-purchase opportunity. There's actually one that we've already signed up for, and that's Narvar, if you're familiar with them. So we'll be utilizing them, but that's more for package tracking, and it keeps it simple for the customer. I know that they deal with Warby Parker and quite a few others, and it's another way of enhancing that ease of tracking. They don't have to go look it up. It just happens. It comes to them, whether it's through a text or through an email. It comes both ways. If you think you have the capability of creating those custom kits and housing that and managing that through a subscription that goes either monthly or bi-monthly or whatever it may be, and the flexibility for customers to change it completely, then yes, I think that that's definitely what we're looking for. There's another company that I've been talking to as well, but if you can offer things that would enhance that experience through, being able to do the marketing emails and things like that. If a customer, their shipment's coming in a week or it's getting ready to ship, is there anything else you want to add, make recommendations, things like that? That's something I'm really interested in.
Yep. I would say short of the making recommendations, we can do that. The making recommendations from a personalization or a recommendations engine, pretty crowded space. That's not something we're necessarily trying to get into. If you have logic, though, that says this person's buying this kit, it makes sense to give them these options for additional upsells, we can absolutely put that into emails.
And that's really what I'm looking for.
Okay, yeah, we can absolutely do that. Okay, well, based on what you're saying, what I think probably makes sense is to move through to that next step that I had outlined in my last email. So what I would like to do is put together a user flow for you so you understand, okay, this is how people learn about the program. Here's kind of what that experience looks like in a wireframe perspective as they move through it. And we'll be able to go into greater detail then about emails that go out, triggering of those emails. What does that My Subscription interface look like, because you haven't seen that yet, and really start to outline what is that user experience in detail for you. From there, I would want to do some technical conversations, and so that you feel comfortable just in terms of how does this integrate. And I guess, are you guys doing the building or site development on your side, or where's that happening?
No, so what I would probably do is arrange that meeting, but sit in our web developers office, which is, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
They're here in Charlotte as well, but they're also in Austin. They're also in, LA, San Francisco. And they've got a big team in Russia as well. So, but I think it would be best to have them involved.
Okay. And that might be its own separate conversation, just if it's going to get that big in terms of the number of people. Maybe we do just the user flow and make sure that's good for you before we start to go to that level of detail.
That would be right.
Okay. What e-com platform are you using?
Magento.
Magento. Okay. The 2.0?
Great question.
If you purchased it recently, then it's got to be 2.0.
Yes.
Okay. Great. And ESP?
ESP?
Sorry, email service provider?
Oh, all of our emails are done through Microsoft.
Microsoft. Okay. So you're not using an automation tool for that yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay, that's perfect. I guess the last thing I would need from you, would be some type of wireframes and UX, if you can share that, so that I can put it into context of that flow and make the right recommendations for you.
I don't have that.
Not available?
Yeah, no, I do. I have.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
I can.
Great. Yeah, if you can send it over to me, I would say mid to late next week, we should be able to get back together and walk through that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Skip, why don't I do this? I'll put together a recap of our conversation and just remind the wireframe, and then talk about some of the stuff we're going to work towards. Yes. I'll also put some times in there that I'm available on my side. And then you let me know what works for you. We'll get that figured out and we'll move forward from there.
Sounds good. And if you could send me a link to this recording, that'd be great.
Most certainly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Skip. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time.
Okay. Talk soon.